we have these little beautiful little booklets in there for you so you can know all about your speaker that is coming up. And our first speaker has been a television sports anchor for over 3 decades, the last 25 years in Minneapolis, St. Paul. JoeSchmit has won 15 Emmys in his career. Show off. He has interviewed the biggest names, covered the biggest events, and turned in some of the biggest expense accounts in TV history. Joe knows sports, but he also is an expert on the art of influence. He has written his first book called Silent Impact, Stories of Influence Through Purpose, Persistence, and Passion, and that's what he's going to talk to you today about. So please help me welcome JoeSchmit. Joe.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Julie. I have been a television sportscaster for over 30 years. As a matter of fact, I worked at KCRG-TV in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, earlier in my career. And all along my career, people tell me, Joe, you got the greatest job in the world. You got the best job in the world. I'm here to tell you that's not true. You see, sure, I get to go to games for free, and sure, I get to sit in the press box, and when I'm there, they even feed me. But when that game is over, I got to go into a dirty, stinky, smelly locker room and get half-naked men to say something intelligent. That's a tough job. I'm talking to a baseball player. His team has just qualified for the World Series. And I say to him, how great is this? You had to dream about this moment ever since you were a little kid. And he looks at me and he says, Joe, I can sum up how I feel in 3 words. It don't get no better than this. I'm talking to a football player, college football player, freshman. The very first time he touches a ball in the game, he goes 100 yards for a touchdown. It's on a kickoff return. So afterwards, we interview him, and his eyes are as big as saucers, and we say, describe the play. And he said it was great. I got the ball on the goal line. I ran to the 20-yard line. I saw a big hole up the side, and that's where my instincts kicked in. It was like running from the cops. I told you. The truth is, we all operate by our instincts, and those instincts lead to actions. And those actions either have a positive impact on the world around us or a negative impact on the world around us. The problem is, sometimes people sleepwalk through the mundane to the monumental moments of their life, not realizing that everything we do, everything we say, how we act, how we react, what our body language is, what our attitude is, it all leaves a mark. And what we all need to do is wake up and realize that we make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. I call this silent impact. That's what I've done my research on, that's what I've written my book on, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about here this morning. Now let me start you off with a question. If there were a going away party tonight at your office, at your company, who would the most people show up for? Think about that for a second, because that person is a person of great influence. That person has a huge impact on the culture of your company. We did research on 10 companies, small, medium, and as large as Target, looking for this person. And we didn't find this person always in the usual places. It wasn't necessarily the person who sat in the corner office. Sometimes this person of great impact, of great influence, cleaned the corner office. But in each and every instance, this person had 3 traits in common: purpose, persistence, and passion. Purpose. They aligned their actions with their values. Persistence. They were persistent in their positivity, and they were persistent in their preparation. And last but not least, passion. They were the heart and soul of the operation because they simply cared. They not only cared about you as a coworker, but they cared about you as a human being too. You put them all together, purpose, persistence, and passion, and you get what I call an impact player. Now, when I cover sports, an impact player is somebody who makes everybody on the field of play better just by being there. A guy like Michael Jordan is an impact player. Well, you can be an impact player in life too when you understand the power of your purpose, persistence, and passion. I cover a baseball player in Minnesota who's an impact player. His name is Joe Mauer. Some of you may have heard of him. He's a 6-time All-Star, 1-time Most Valuable Player, 2-time batting champ. Someday he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. As a matter of fact, he's rehabbing right now down in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, playing for the Colonels, coming off an injury. 13 years ago, Joe was in high school at Cretin-Durham Hall High School. Now you got to realize Joe was the greatest high school athlete ever out of the state of Minnesota. He was the big man on campus. He was tall, good looking, and soon to be rich. I would take any one of those for 10 minutes. Every day after Joe's 4th hour class, he walked a special needs kid who was blind to the lunchroom and sat him at his lunch table, the coolest table in the school. And I asked Joe, I said, why did you do that? And he said, because it was the right thing to do. You might say his purpose. He had aligned his actions with his values. So then I started to think about what kind of silent impact did this have on others. So I put my reporter's cap on and I found Mike Hawley. Mike was the student who Joe walked and sat at the lunchroom every day. And I said, Mike, what did it mean to you? And he said it was great. He said he was a big sports fan, but he never had a friend who was an athlete before. Now he had all kinds of friends who were athletes, and they had a lot of fun, and they talked sports every day at that table. Then I thought, what about the impact on the other kids? So I found 6 kids 13 years later who sat around that table. And they said whatever Joe did spread like wildfire throughout that school because he was so popular. Joe would always walk Mike to the next class after lunch. By the end of the first semester, the guys would fight over who got to walk Mike to the next class. Wednesdays was pizza day at Cretin-Durham Hall. And Mike would invariably spill some crumbs on his clothing, some pizza sauce on his chin or his cheek, and Joe would nonchalantly grab a napkin, wipe him off, and brush him off. By the end of the first semester, they were all doing this. These are high school kids, the most selfish creatures on God's green earth. We make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. Silent impact, it's being heard loud and clear. It's real, it's profound, it's powerful, it's contagious. Persistence. Staying persistently positive is tough because there's a lot of negativity in this world around us. The best way to stay persistently positive is by getting rid of as much negativity as you can in your life. Get rid of negative thoughts, listen to yourself speak, get rid of negative words, and last but not least, get rid of negative friends. My wife and I were out to dinner a few years ago. And about halfway through the dinner with this couple, we realized it was a negative experience. They were talking about mutual friends of ours and saying negative things. They were complaining about the food, the service. They were bragging about their kids, and everybody knows my kids are better than their kids. No, but when the dinner was over, I got in the car with my wife and I said, Laura, we are never going out with this couple again. And I said, why? She said, why is that? I said, we only have so many nights a year we can choose who we want to be with. We will not choose negative. Now, out of some sense of obligation, let's be honest in here, we're all amongst friends. How many of you in the past year maybe spent some time socially with someone you really didn't want to? Just raise your hand a little bit. Just, yeah. If they're sitting next to you, don't look at them. Maybe you don't have to get rid of them, but just push them out a little bit and don't spend as much time with them for the negativity. Last but not least is passion. Think about people you like to be around in your life, and I guarantee you they're passionate people. I married my wife because she's the most passionate person I know. Just the other night I came home and she's sitting with a big glass of wine and she says, I love you. I don't know how I would have made it all these years without you. And I said, well, honey, I love you too, but are you sure that's not the wine talking? She said, yes, I'm sure. I was talking to the wine. A few years ago, I was doing my silent impact speech to a group of Wendy's franchisees, owners, and Wendy's general managers. And afterwards, a woman came up to me and she said, I want to tell you something that happened in my store. She said, every morning an elderly gentleman came through the drive-through window for breakfast for a couple of months. And every morning he was waited on by the same woman. She was a lady who sent her kids off to school early and then came in to work at Wendy's and manned the drive-through window. One day, the gentleman pulled his car over and came into the store, and he asked the general manager if he could see the woman who had waited on him all that time. And she came out from behind the window, and the older gentleman said, may I hug you? And he gave her a big, firm hug. And he said, I just came here to thank you. I won't be seeing as much of you anymore. Every morning when I was driving through for breakfast, I was on the way to see my wife at the hospital. She passed away last night, so I won't be coming around as much anymore, but I wanted to thank you. Because every morning when I came through that window, you reminded me of my wife before she got sick. You were happy and you smiled, and you left me feeling every conversation. You left every conversation with people feeling better about themselves. I needed to thank you. It's called the second thank you, when you go back and thank somebody who's had a moment in your life. It could be a small moment, it could be a middle moment, it could be a monumental moment, but go back and thank those people. You see, I believe we all need to develop our own Mount Rushmore of influence. If you could build a Mount Rushmore and put the most influential people in your life on that Mount Rushmore, who would they be? And why would they be there? Would it be their purpose, their persistence, their passion? Or would it be a combination of all three? Do it. Make that Mount Rushmore of influence. You see, all the stories I've done, all the research, all the writing I've done on influence, I've figured something out. I've figured something out about great people and great leaders and influential people. It's really simple. When you figure this out, you got it figured out. It's not about them liking you. It's about them liking themselves. And if you can be the person at the right moment in their life to make that happen, guess what? Someday they'll put you up on their Mount Rushmore of influence. And when that magic moment happens, there will only be 3 words to describe how you feel. It don't get no better than this. I appreciate being here. You have a wonderful cast of characters that will be speaking today. Have a great day. I'll be around all afternoon. Yeah.